Hey guys, it's Mr. G, and in this video I'm going to do Unit 3, Lab 1, Page 3 on selecting specific data. So we got to create code that will find a contact from our big contact list, and this is basically because if your contact list has like thousands of entries, it's going to be really hard to find like the phone number of one specific person. But creating a find contact button or sprite or code will make it a lot easier to find that stuff. So what we're going to do is basically write a find contacts with name block that takes this text string from a user as input and reports either a list of the contacts whose name includes that string or an empty list if no such name is in contact list. So I'm going to have to use this new block that we haven't used before, string contains, which reports true if the first string contains the second string. Okay? And we're going to use the keep block so that we can keep the items in the list, the contacts that do match the name, for example. And I'm going to use the empty block to see if the list is empty. And I guess we're going to see if that we're going to see how that works in a little bit. And I got to use my selector, so I got to be able to identify the name from the contact. So let's see. I'm going to actually start by going into the script area and making this find contacts with name block. Make a block. It's going to be a variable block, a reporter. So this function is going to find contacts with name, and I'm going to use my shortcut %name, and there we go. So find contacts with name, and it's going to take in a name. Now I'm going to make sure that this only takes in text, and that is good. That should be good. So we're good to go. We have our find contacts with name block over here, and it is right now it's just reporting nothing, but I'm gonna have to add some code here. All right, so we got to think about how this works. So what I want to do is I want to go through the entire list. Let me think. I want to go through the entire list and check to see if the name matches what the person typed in. Okay? So I'm going to have to ask the user who they're looking for, and then I'm going to pass in that name or that answer right in here. And then what I want to do is I want to go through each contact in the whole list and see if it matches. So let's do that. I know I can go through every item in the list by using the for each block. And it says for each item of blank, but it's basically going to be for each contact of blank. Now over here, I'm going to search specifically through the contact list. So I'm going to bring over the contact list, and for each contact, I'm going to do something and then report something. Remember, this is a reporter, so we have to report something. Just to see that it's working right now, like as I'm coding, I'm going to actually kind of like debug this. I want to make sure that I can actually see every contact of contact list. So I'm going to go to looks, and for each contact of contact list, it's going to say, and I want it to say the contact for 2 seconds each. And I'm not going to report anything because I want to do this first. There's nothing to report really. Eventually, I'm going to report the contacts maybe that do meet the criteria. But for now, I just wanted to say the contacts. I want to make sure that this for each block actually does work. Okay, so let me click on it, and it should be, oops, it's hard to see right now. It should be saying every single item in the list. Actually, right now there's only 2 items. Let me add more. Add contact, oops. Add contact, let's add, I don't know, banana again. Banana, 123, Fruit Street. And phone number is 345. Okay, there we go. Now we have 3 items. Now I'm going to click on this block again, and there's Jimbo for 2 seconds, then not Jimbo for 2 seconds, and then banana for 2 seconds. So perfect. My for each block works. Okay? And this is something you might want to get in the habit of. Like before you just start throwing code together, see if it works. Okay? And I like using a say block. Although in JavaScript I use console.log, this is basically the same thing. It lets us say what's going on. So I know that I can look at each contact of contact list. So what I want to do is when the person types in a name, I want to check to see if the name equals what they typed in. Okay? Now, I have to access the name variable of each contact. Okay? So I'm going to use my selector that I created back on page 1, name from contact, and it's going to take in a list. Now, luckily, every item in our contact list is a list. Each contact is a list. Remember that. So I can actually pass in the contact right in here. So this should report back the name of the contact. And I'm actually going to just say the names. Let me actually throw that in here just to make sure that this works. Okay? I'm going to apply it. I'm going to run it. And it should just report back Jimbo for 2 seconds, then not Jimbo for 2 seconds, and then banana. Let's see if it works. Jimbo, not Jimbo, and banana. Perfect. It works. So I can look at the name. And now what I can do is I can check to see if it equals the name that the person typed in. Okay? And I'm going to do that by checking to see if this name from contact equals, let me bring this over here, equals the name that the person typed in. There we go. Okay. So if that's true, then I do have some matches, right? Let's see what else it says we should do. We should keep those items. Okay, so we should actually, because I don't want to just report the name, just the name. I'm gonna have to keep the whole contact. So let's say the person types in Jimbo. I have to get Jimbo's name, address, and phone number, and I have to store that. All right, so I want to use the keep block. So let me go over here and bring over keep. Where is it? Keep right here. Keep items such that, okay, from blank. So we got to use this block, and we kind of have to modify what we've been doing so far. Okay. So we're going to take in the contact list, and we're going to keep the items, the name from we're going to keep in, let me throw this in here. We're going to keep any names that match the name that the person typed in. Now, if we run this will actually not work, I don't think, because I won't be able to go through every item of the list. So I have to actually remove this. I have to remove contact from here, because what it's going to do is it's going to go through the entire list. Keep items actually also goes through the entire list. And it will go through the entire list, and it will throw every item into the blank input. Okay? So I want to check to see if my name from the contact, equals the name that the person typed in. Now, if I was using the for each block here, then I have to actually use contact, the name from contact and contact. But let's see if this works. So we're going to keep items such that the name from the contact equals, and right now it says name, but I'm not taking anything in. So actually, let me kind of bring this over. I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but I'm thinking on the fly as I'm speaking. I want to actually report any names. I'm going to report any contacts, whose name matches the name that the person types in. Okay, from the contact list. And it should report back all of those. It should report back a list with those contacts. Let me see if this works. Okay, I'm going to apply this. I'm going to type in Jimbo for the name, and it should report back a list that has Jimbo, his address, and his phone number. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm going to click on this, and it does. Okay, so what it's doing right now is keep items goes through the entire list, because I passed in contact list as the main list. And what it's doing is it's looking at every item, and it's applying this predicate to every item. It's trying to see if the name from the contact, that item, equals the name that the person typed in here in the input box. Okay, and I just typed in Jimbo, and it worked up here. This is a little confusing, and once again, I don't like leaving blocks blank. So what I personally do is I add an input name. So this is going to be the contact. So every item is a contact. Okay. Now this contact is a little different than this one, but I guess it's similar in a way because it's a little variable that it's using. But you could have left it blank. In fact, I think in Snap they encourage that you leave it blank, or in the curriculum they do. But personally, I like to have an input, just let's say a variable name so I know what's actually going on in there. And this should work. So this finds the context with that name, and then it spits it back. Now, what happens if I type in a name that doesn't exist? Like, let's say I type in, I don't know, ASDF. So right now it reports an empty list, and I think that's what it wanted. Let me double check. Let's see. We use keep items, which reports only the items that make the function true, and empty list, which returns true if the list is empty and false otherwise. Okay, and we got to use name from contact. All right, so I did use some of these blocks, but I didn't use empty yet. Returns true if the list is empty. Okay, so I think what they want us to do is they want us to create another variable to store any matches. We want to store the matches so that we could report back if the matches list is empty. All right, this is kind of tricky. This is not easy to understand sometimes. Let me see if 3 helps us out a little bit. Develop a find contact button, make the script ask the user whose contact to search for, and have the sprite say each of the matching contacts. There we go. Okay? If the contact is not in the list, make the sprite say not found. Okay. Wow. So that's kind of a lot. So let's take a step back and go through this like in order of what it's going to work like. So when a person types in or clicks on find contact, it is going to ask them for their name. So let me just start doing that. So when the person clicks on find contact, I'm in the sprite that says find. So when someone clicks on it, it's going to ask that person for a name. Who are you looking for? Who are you looking for? Type in a name. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's see if this works. I'm going to say whatever I find, and I'm going to, instead of typing in the name here, I'm going to pass in whatever the person said to me as an answer. So when I ask the user who you're looking for, it's going to look for them. Let me type in Jimbo, and if it works, it should report back the entire Jimbo thing. Perfect. Jimbo's just got reported back for 2 seconds, and that works. Now, there might be an issue if there's 2 Jimbos in here, but we'll get to that in just a second, and that's where the matches comes in. So let me actually do that. So I'm going to type in what the person's looking for, or who they're looking for, and I'm going to save any contacts that like match that criteria. So let me actually create a script variable for that. I'm going to put the script variable at the top, and I'm going to put matching contacts. So this is going to be, I guess it's going to be an empty list in the beginning. I could actually set it as an empty list. I don't really have to actually, because whenever I run this, it's going to kind of like reset matching contacts. It's not really going to save the state of matching contacts. But what I want to do is every single time that I find a contact that has that name, I'm going to save that inside of matching contacts. So that's where my for each block will come in handy. Okay, so I'm going to, actually, let me think. Find contacts with name. What? Okay, let me think. Let me just think for 1 second. How do I want to do this? Okay, so let me take another step back, and I'm gonna basically, I think this is good because you guys get to see like how I think through a problem, and how I kind of like break it down and like build it up slowly. So I'm actually gonna bring in this empty block. Okay, empty. Where is it? Here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if my matching contacts is empty. And matching contacts should be a list, because remember that when this thing reports back something, it's going to report a list. So if my matching contacts is empty, I'm going to say there are no users with that name. There are no users with that name for 2 seconds. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user, who are you looking for? Okay, and instead of saying that I found all the contacts with that name, okay, I am going to add every single one that it finds. So I'm going to go through the entire list. So that's where my for each block comes in. So I'm going to go through the entire list, contacts of the, for each contact of contact list, and I am going to store each one that it finds, each one that matches inside of this matching contacts list. Okay? So for each contact of contact list, so it's going to go through the entire list, and here is, okay, I am going to store, where is it? Oh, I'm going to check here. Let me duplicate this, bring it over. I am going to add the name from the contact to my matching contacts list. Okay, so what this is doing, it's going to go through every contact in my contact list. It's going to add the name from the contact to matching contacts, but I should only do that if the name equals the name of the contact, right? So that is not good. Okay, this wasn't good initially. So I'm going to have to check if the name from the contact equals the answer that was passed in, then I'm going to add the entire contact to matching contacts. There we go. This makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to try to read this again slowly. So I'm going to ask the person for who they're looking for. Then I'm going to go through each contact of my contact list. And if the name of the contact matches the answer that the user gave, I'm going to add that contact to matching contacts. Okay? Now, once I do that, once I'm done with every item, if the list is empty, if my matching contacts list is empty, then I'm going to say there are no users with that name. And if it is not empty, then we have some matching contacts. So then I'm going to say, and what I want to do is I want to say every item in matching contacts. Okay, so how would I do that? Actually, for now, I'm just going to say the entire list. Okay, I'm going to make that for 4 seconds. So if it finds contacts with the same name, it's going to report back a list of these contacts. Okay? I think in the lab it says to say each of the matching contacts. We can figure that out in a little bit. But for now, I just want to actually say the entire, like, if there's matching contacts, and if matching contacts is empty, then there's no users with that name. Okay? So my issue with all this is that I'm not using keep item, keep items such that blank. So this is not working exactly how they want or how they suggested, but this is just one solution, the way I kind of like thought about it. Let's see if it works. Let me add another Jimbo in here, just so I can kind of see if this is working. So I'm going to add Jimbo, and his address is 111 again Street, and phone number is 777. Okay, so there's 2 Jimbos. Now, when I click on Find Contact, it should ask me who you're looking for. Type in a name. There we go. And I'm going to let's type in nothing first, or let's type in like ASDF and see if it finds ASDF. It says 0. Why is it saying 0? Let's see. I'm actually, if empty list. Oh, because, why is it doing that? I'm actually not sure. Let me come back to that in just a second, but let's see if it works with Jimbo. Jimbo, and it should spit back a list. Oh no, we have an error. Expected list, but getting, let me type in Jimbo again. Expected list, but getting number. Why is it getting a number? Okay, let's see. Not sure. Let me try again. So let me see if let me try to debug this. by breaking it down a little bit. I actually think one of our students had the same bug, and if it's the bug that I think it is, which I don't know how to fix, we're going to be in trouble here. But I don't know. We'll see if this what happens. So I'm creating matching contacts. Maybe my issue is that maybe matching contacts isn't a list initially, so it can't add contacts to that list. Let me try that. Let me see if that's what the issue is. I'm actually going to set matching contacts to an empty list. Maybe it has to expect that it's a list. I have to kind of declare the type of the data type of matching contacts of this variable. Maybe that's why it's reporting back 0 instead of what it wants. Let me put it back together and see if this works now. Okay, so I'm going to find a contact, and I'm going to type in ASDF. When I hit enter, hopefully it says there are no users with that name. Yes, there are no users with that name. Okay, so that must have been the error. Maybe the issue was, and that's kind of hard to debug, that when I make a script variable matching contacts, I really have to declare it or initialize it to an empty list. For a second, I guess I thought that I didn't need to do that because every single time I run this script, it's going to kind of clear matching contacts, but I need to tell it it's going to be a list so I can add a list items to it. So when I do this, is add contact to matching contacts, I can actually add it to this empty list. But if it's not a list initially, then it can't be added. So that's why I was getting an error that said 0. Okay, so that must have been the issue. I hope. Let me continue by trying to see what happens if I type in Jimbo, because now we have 2 Jimbos in find contacts, in the contact list, I should say. I'm looking for Jimbo, and when I hit enter, I hope that it says a list that has 2 Jimbos in it. Yes, it worked. So my 2 Jimbos showed up in the contact list area. So right now it's actually not easy to see because I haven't been hiding the variables. Let me hide the variable, the contact list, and let me show it at the end. So once it's done with everything, let's show this contact list. Let's try this one more time. Actually, let me add one more Jimbo before we do that. Let me add Jimbo, and he's 333 Banana Street, and his phone number is 454. Okay, so there's 3 Jimbos now. So now when I hit find contact, who are you looking for? Type in a name, Jimbo, and it should report back a list that has all of the contacts. There's my all 3 Jimbos. Okay, so it worked. It's working, and then Jimbos comes back. So let me try, I think I have banana in there, right? Let me try banana, and it reports back just banana. Let me try nothing again, just to make sure that it doesn't conk out over here. When I hit, type in a random name, there are no users with that name. And so my block works. My find contact block works. And that's kind of how I went through and figured this out. Now, let me think. Where can I optimize this? Because right now I'm setting matching contacts to an empty list. But geez, now that I think about it, I could actually set it to a list of using the keep items block, I can set matching contacts to a list that has all the items that match without having to do the for each block in here. Wow, that's silly of me. So let me actually do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down, and instead of setting matching contacts to an empty list, I'm actually going to have to ask the person who they're looking for first. So let me do that here. And I'm going to keep the items. I'm gonna set matching contacts to a list that keeps the items that runs like all of this code. It'll be looking at the name from each contact and checking to see if it equals the answer that the person typed in. So let me do that over here. Let me duplicate this one over here. And oh my gosh, this is crazy. So it's going to set matching contacts. This would work. This is actually probably more optimal than going through every item. And then what I can do is if matching contacts list is empty, there are no users with that name. And if it's not empty, then I can say all of the matching contacts for 4 seconds. Okay? Let's see if this works. Let's see if I broke the code again. I'm going to look for ASDF, and there should be no one in there. No users with that name. Let me click it again. Let me type in Jimbo, and it works. Wow, how did I not think of that? Well, whatever. It's cool, I guess. But this isn't exactly what they said, I think, in the lab, or what they wanted. We wanted the sprite to say each of the matching contacts, maybe one by one. Yeah, because right now I'm just reporting back all of the matching contacts. And that might not be the best way to do it. So maybe I can use the for each block over here. Did it say to use for each? No. But I could use the for each block. Let me just duplicate this. And instead of going through each contact of contact list, I'm going to go through each contact of matching contacts. Okay? Let me bring that over. Let me see. Okay, so this will go, let me think. If there's no contacts, it's going to say there are no users with that name. Otherwise, for each contact of the matching contacts, I want to say, and I want to say the name of that contact. Actually, no, I don't want to just say the name. I want to say the whole contact. So I'm going to say the contact for let's say 2 seconds. So what this is going to do is, yeah, if I just said the name, then it would just say Jimbo, Jimbo, Jimbo. But I wanted to say the entire contact, all the information. So it should say each list item for 2 seconds. And then it's going to show the variable contact list. Okay, so let's see if this works. So find contact, looking for ASDF, no users with that name. Perfect. Find contact, looking for Jimbo. And there's the first Jimbo. There's the second Jimbo, and there's the third Jimbo. So I think we accomplished what they wanted. This is kind of crazy stuff. But you guys can see like where I got stuck, and you guys can see me debugging, and you guys can see how I go about like figuring stuff out on the fly. You'll notice that I'm like literally talking out loud of what I want the program to do in which order, and then I'm trying to find code that can actually do that. And I'm like thinking of where I want to store things, what I want to store, when I want to say it back. And I think this should be exactly how maybe one way that you could have done it. Not exactly how, but this is just one way of accomplishing the task. Just a few minutes ago, you guys saw the other way. I was literally going through each contact and checking to see if the name matched. So you saw me try out 2 different ways of doing this. Uh-oh. Now, if there's time, which there is, we are going to develop a delete contact button. Okay. Now, I think this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to save this for a second video, just so it's like a little bit shorter and it's just on delete contact. So I'll catch you guys in the next one.